The sound of glass shattering cuts through the laughter. A wine glass slips from my mother's hand, crashing onto the marble floor, red liquid spreading like a wound across the white tile. The room falls silent. My sister, Leah, freezes mid-laugh, the silver bow in her hair glinting under the chandelier. Every face turns toward me, some confused, some amused, but all waiting for me to react. The air smells of cinnamon candles and roast beef, a perfect Christmas postcard, until this moment. I stand there, clutching a small wrapped box that suddenly feels like a mistake. My fingers tighten around it, the ribbon digging into my palm. Dad clears his throat, setting his glass down with exaggerated calm. "Dana," he says, voice measured, "we all agreed not to do gifts this year." His words land heavier than they should. The entire room seems to tilt. For a second, I think I misheard him. Then Leah giggles, that smug, breathy kind of laugh that makes my skin crawl. "Guess she didn't get the memo," she says, her tone sugary sweet. The box in my hand suddenly feels like it's burning. I stare at it, gold paper, careful folds, a small tag that reads to Mom and Dad, "Love, Dana." I'd spent 2 weeks planning it, a framed photo collage of our old family vacations, before everything got weird. Now, my mother's lips press into a tight smile. "Sweetheart, we just thought it'd be fair this year. No gifts. You know, with everything going on." Everything going on. That's code for Leah needs to save face again. My sister sits across the room, legs crossed, the glow of fairy lights catching her diamond bracelet, the one she swore was a gift from a sponsor. Beside her, her husband, Corey, scrolls through his phone, pretending not to notice the tension. I feel the eyes on me. Every cousin, aunt, and family friend who came to just drop by, now watching the black sheep get her yearly reminder of her place. The humiliation prickles up my neck like static. "Right?" I manage, forcing a shaky laugh. "No gifts. My mistake." I set the box down on the table, but the sound echoes far too loudly. Leah leans back, her smile widening. "It's okay, sis. You always try so hard." Her words are a dagger wrapped in glitter. That's not even the worst part. Because as the silence stretches, Dad lifts his glass again. A toast, as if to wash away the awkwardness. "Let's just enjoy the night," he says. "No hard feelings." The others murmur agreement, the noise slowly returning, but not for me. Mom laughs a little too loudly at one of Leah's stories. My uncle turns the music back on. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, and the moment is swallowed whole by forced cheer. I stand there for another few seconds, holding myself still, fighting the heat behind my eyes. The room smells of pine and wine and something else, betrayal dressed in tinsel. In that second I see it clearly, every Christmas, every birthday, we're so proud of Leah. All the times I'd paid their bills, covered their subscriptions, helped them move, and still ended up invisible under my sister's spotlight. I smile because that's what's expected. I pick up a napkin, wipe up the wine, and pretend it's fine. But inside, something sharp and final clicks into place. My voice is steady when I finally speak. "You're right, Dad. No gifts this year." I pause just long enough for Leah to smirk again. She thinks she's won. Then I add quietly, "Starting tonight." Her smile falters, confusion flashing for a second. If you're as shocked as I was, drop a comment below with where you're watching from and what time it is. Sitting there at the dinner table, the music humming faintly in the background, all those memories came flooding back. It always started the same way, Leah shining like a chandelier, me fading into the wallpaper. Our family revolved around her orbit. Even as kids, I learned that praise was a currency, and Leah owned the mint. I remember one Christmas when I was 9 and she was 12. Dad had promised we wouldn't exchange big gifts that year because money's tight. I took it to heart, wrapped a handmade bookmark for Mom, painted a mug for Dad. Leah, meanwhile, strutted in that morning with a giant box she said was from Santa. Inside was a pink mountain bike. Mom gasped, Dad whistled, and Leah spun in circles, her blonde hair glowing in the light of the tree. "Santa must love you extra this year," Mom said. Leah winked at me. "Guess I've been good." No one questioned how a 12-year-old Santa managed to afford a brand new bike. That was my first lesson in family math. Leah's lies were charm, mine were attitude. Years later, the pattern deepened. When I got accepted into university on a full scholarship, I came home with my acceptance letter trembling in my hands. Dad didn't even look up from his paper. "That's good," he muttered. "But are you sure you can handle it, working and studying?" Leah walked in right then, announcing she'd landed an unpaid internship at a local boutique. Mom's eyes lit up. "See? That's what ambition looks like." I wanted to laugh. She was working for free, I was getting paid to study, but I bit my tongue. I always bit my tongue. They said Leah had personality, and I had potential. Personality meant she got away with everything. Potential meant I was a project they'd never finish. By my mid-20s, I had built a stable life. I worked at a bank, paid off my car, and rented a modest apartment. Leah, meanwhile, burned through jobs faster than candles at a vigil, first a real estate gig, then content creator, then brand ambassador. Each failure came with a rescue mission. And each time I was the rescuer. One night, I came home from work to find Mom sitting on my couch, holding an envelope. "Leah's had a rough time again," she said softly, eyes red. "Her rent's overdue, and you're so good with money. Could you?" I didn't even let her finish. "Mom, I already helped last month." She sighed, setting the envelope down. "She just needs a push. You know how hard she tries." I wanted to scream that Leah didn't try, she coasted. But I nodded anyway, because saying no felt like betrayal. That's what it always was with my family. Love meant sacrifice, and I was fluent in both. The years blurred together, a carousel of small betrayals spinning too fast to step off. When Dad's car broke down, I paid half the repair bill. When Leah wanted to launch her brand, I helped her open a business account under my name because she'd ruined her credit. When Mom needed new kitchen appliances, I charged them to my card because it's easier for you to get approved, honey. And every time, the thank you faded before the next request arrived. But the real breaking point came 3 years ago. Leah had decided to host her engagement dinner. She'd just gotten engaged to Corey, a personal trainer with more tattoos than paychecks. The venue? My parents' backyard. The bill? I tried to object. Shouldn't Leah and Corey handle this themselves? Mom's voice turned cold. "Dana, you're the one with a stable income." And Dad chimed in, "It's family. Don't make it about money." So I didn't. I paid for the decorations, the catering, even the string quartet Leah absolutely needed. The night of the dinner, Leah made a toast, all fake tears and perfect timing. "I just want to thank my amazing family," she said, raising her champagne. "And especially my parents, who made this night possible." Not a word about me. Not a single glance in my direction. Corey clinked his glass with hers, smiling. "You guys are the best." I stood in the corner, my name missing from the story again. That night, after the guests left, Mom hugged Leah tight. "You make us so proud," she whispered. Then she turned to me and said, "You should smile more, Dana. You always look so tense." I smiled because what else was there to do? I smiled when I helped Leah move into her new apartment. I smiled when she borrowed my car for 2 months and returned it with an empty tank. I smiled when Mom called me our responsible one, the family's built-in safety net. But each smile cost me a little more. One memory stands out sharper than the rest. Last summer, Leah posted a photo on Instagram. A new handbag, gold chain glimmering under sunlight, captioned #gifted by the best parents. I was scrolling through the comments on my lunch break, sipping instant coffee at my desk when I saw it. She'd tagged our parents, not me, even though I was the one who'd footed the bill. I texted her. "You could have at least said thank you." She replied with a laughing emoji. "You're too uptight. It's just a post." That was Leah's magic, turning cruelty into comedy. And I was her favorite audience. Even the holidays became performances of favoritism. Every Christmas, Mom would ask, "What should we get Leah?" But when I asked what they wanted, the answer was always the same. "Oh, sweetie, don't worry about us. Save your money." I saved it for them. When Dad's furnace broke, I paid for the replacement. When Mom wanted to redo the kitchen backsplash, I hired the contractor. When Leah's influencer trip to Miami went south, I covered her credit card debt so she wouldn't ruin her reputation. And each time they told me, "You're such a blessing to this family." But they treated blessings like resources, something to use until they run out. I used to think being dependable was my strength. Now, I know it was my leash. The last few months before that Christmas party, the cracks had already started to show. Mom called less, but only when she needed something. Dad sent texts, links to bills or receipts that needed paying. And Leah? She'd post pictures of expensive dinners while borrowing money from me. Then came the phone call that sealed it. It was early December. I was at work, closing out the quarter, when Mom's number popped up. Her voice was too bright. "Dana, honey, we decided to do something simple this year. No gifts, just family time." I smiled into the receiver. "That sounds nice." She paused. "Leah's been under a lot of stress with her brand deals. We don't want her to feel pressured." I should have known then what that really meant: protect Leah at all costs. "Sure," I said. "No gifts." But I couldn't help myself. A week later, I found the perfect photo frame. I spent hours designing a collage, old family pictures from trips, birthdays, even Mom's garden days. I thought it might remind them who we used to be before money and envy replaced affection. So when I walked into that Christmas party, clutching that wrapped box, it wasn't just a gift, it was a peace offering. A symbol of hope that maybe, for once, they'd see me. Instead, I got laughter. Mockery. Humiliation disguised as holiday cheer. I can still see Leah's smirk, the way she leaned into Mom, whispering something that made them both laugh. I can still hear Dad's words echoing in my head: "We all agreed not to do gifts this year." But I wasn't thinking about gifts anymore. I was thinking about balance, about every dollar, every favor, every hour I'd poured into people who never poured back. The truth was simple: I'd been the foundation of a house that never saw me as part of its walls. That night, sitting under the soft glow of Christmas lights, the math finally added up. For years, I'd paid for their comfort, and all it bought me was silence. They wanted no gifts? Fine. Because what came next, the truth I was about to uncover, would be the last gift they'd ever get from me. I didn't sleep that night. The laughter from the party still echoed in my head, tangled with the clinking of glasses and Leah's smug voice replaying like a broken record. By 3 a.m., I was sitting on my couch, a blanket wrapped around my shoulders, laptop open, the glow of the screen reflecting off half-finished coffee. At first, I just wanted to vent, to scroll aimlessly through old photos and remind myself that once upon a time, this family felt real. But then I opened my banking app, and everything changed. The first thing I noticed was the pending charges. Multiple ones. 2 Uber receipts from Leah's city, not mine. A $312 charge from a luxury spa in Miami. Another $189 from a restaurant I'd never even heard of. My chest tightened. I scrolled further. Dozens of transactions I didn't recognize. They weren't recent, they stretched back months. Maybe years. At the bottom of the screen, my available credit glared back at me like a warning light. $198.24 remaining. My heart sank. That's when I realized this wasn't just another Leah mistake. This was theft, disguised as family trust. I clicked into my statements. There they were, small amounts here and there, $45 for utilities, $99 for online order, $215 for subscription renewal. I recognized some charges I'd once brushed off, thinking they were mine. But now I saw the pattern. Each one matched a time Leah had called crying Mom had asked for just a little help, or Dad had said he'd pay me back next paycheck. They never did. My breathing slowed. I opened my email next, typing family into the search bar. Hundreds of messages popped up, receipts, password resets, shared accounts I'd forgotten existed. Spotify, Hulu, Amazon Prime, all family plans under my name. And every profile name? Leah. Not one labeled Dana. I clicked the billing tab on each. My card number ending in 4172. My account. My payments. That's when I felt the anger replace the sadness. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the casual way they built their comfort on my silence. Little did they know, I was done staying silent. I started digging deeper. In the early morning light, I called the credit card company. "Hi, this is Dana Sullivan. I'd like to review authorized users on my account." The representative's voice was cheerful. "Of course, Miss Sullivan. It looks like you currently have 3 active authorized users, Carol and George Sullivan and Leah Matthews." I froze. Matthews, Leah's married name. She'd never asked to be added. When were they added? I asked. "Let me check. Looks like December 2020 for Carol and George, and February 2021 for Leah." The rep paused. "Do you want to remove them?" I hesitated. "Not yet. I needed proof first. Could you email me the statements for the last 24 months? I said, my tone even. "Of course." When I hung up, my hands were shaking, but not from fear. From focus. Within minutes, the email arrived. I scrolled through line after line of charges, my eyes catching familiar patterns. Leah's favorite luxury brands. Corey's gym memberships. Online orders for skincare, jewelry, camera gear, thousands of dollars of it. Then I found one that made my stomach drop. $3,800, transferred to Corey Matthews. Memo line, business loan reimbursement. A loan? From me? I checked my outgoing transfers. Nothing on my end. It wasn't my doing. Which meant one thing, someone had accessed my account. I pulled up my email again and typed authorization. A message popped up from the bank dated February 15, 2021. Your joint access request for new authorized user Corey Matthews has been processed successfully. Attached was a PDF, signed electronically with my name. Only it wasn't my signature. The font was wrong, the alignment off, but the digital signature carried my name, Dana Sullivan. I felt my pulse in my ears. They hadn't just used my money. They'd forged my approval. I opened my work laptop next, navigating to the internal tools I used daily at the bank. Fraud detection, transaction logs, digital authorization comparisons, I had access. Not as a hacker, but as an analyst. I wasn't about to cross any legal lines, but I could look at patterns. Every digital signature carries a metadata stamp, device ID, IP address, timestamp. I downloaded the forged authorization form and ran the metadata check. The IP address was local, not mine. The location? My parents' house. Dad's house. That's when I realized how deep this ran. It wasn't Leah alone. My parents had helped her do it. For years, I believed they just didn't see my worth. Now, I saw something worse. They knew my worth and they'd been cashing it in. My phone buzzed. A text from Mandy, my coworker and closest friend. "Mandy, you up? You left the party early. Everything okay?" I stared at the message for a long time before replying. "Me, no. But it will be." By noon, I had a folder on my desktop titled Family Ledger. Inside it, I saved every receipt, every unauthorized transaction, every forged document. Each piece of evidence neatly organized by date. The total so far, $47,318. I leaned back, exhaling. That number used to sound impossible. Now it was my freedom price tag. Still, one question burned in my mind. How had they managed access to my online banking? I checked the login history. Dozens of successful logins from one location, the same IP as before. But one stood out, a Samsung tablet registered to Leah Matthews. I remembered the day vividly. 2 years ago, Leah had borrowed my tablet when her phone broke. I'd never gotten it back. So she'd been logging in, transferring money, authorizing payments, all under my name. And Mom and Dad? They'd been approving it, even benefiting from it. It wasn't just betrayal. It was collusion. I printed everything. My living room floor turned into a crime scene of paperwork and highlighters. Red for unauthorized purchases, yellow for forged documents, blue for shared accounts. The lines crossed and overlapped like a web. Somewhere in that mess, my phone buzzed again. An email from Leah. Subject: Need help, again grinning face with sweat. Body, hey sis, my brand deal check got delayed. Could you spot me $2,000 just till next week? Corey's waiting on his bonus. You're a lifesaver. I stared at the screen, my blood boiling. The audacity was almost comical. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the email to myself under a new folder, Evidence, Communication. That evening, I called a friend from work, Alan Rivera, one of the compliance officers. We'd worked together for 5 years, and if anyone could tell me what to do next, it was him. He answered on the second ring. Dana? Everything okay? Not really, I said, my voice steady but low. I think my family's been committing identity fraud under my name. There was a pause. That's serious. You have proof? I have bank logs, forged e-signatures, and transfer records. Alan whistled softly. Listen carefully. Don't confront them yet. Document everything. Get notarized copies if you can. Then file a fraud alert with the credit bureau. You'll need a police report eventually. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Thanks, Alan. And Dana, he added, his voice firm, don't let them talk you into feeling guilty. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's theft. When I hung up, I felt a strange calm settle over me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't reacting, I was investigating. I wasn't the emotional daughter or the dependable sister. I was the banker with a case. Over the next few days, I pieced together the puzzle. Through old text threads, I found out that Leah had been forwarding payment confirmations to Mom. All handled, she'd text, attaching screenshots of my accounts, as if she were my assistant, not my thief. Even worse, I discovered that Dad had applied for a store credit card in my name the previous year, and maxed it out. The store's customer service confirmed it during a call. Yes, ma'am, the rep said politely. The account holder verified using the last 4 digits of the Social Security number. But that wasn't me, I said. Notes say the verification was done verbally by a family member present on the account. I didn't need to ask who. The scale of their deceit was staggering, quiet, consistent, perfectly hidden behind family trust. I found emails where Mom had messaged a travel agency, booking a cruise, on behalf of her daughter Dana Sullivan, using my card. They'd gone on that trip last summer, the one they claimed was a gift from friends. They were right about one thing. It was a gift. From me. Each discovery hit like a new wave, erasing the last bit of innocence I had about them. But with every file I saved, I felt stronger. Leah had her fake confidence. Mom had her denial. Dad had his excuses. But I had facts. And facts were louder than family guilt. By Friday, my evidence folder was complete, 63 pages of records, screenshots, and notarized statements. Alan reviewed them with me over coffee in the break room. This is airtight, he said, scanning the stack. You could press criminal charges. I hesitated. I just want my life back. He nodded slowly. Then start by cutting off their access. And make it official. That night, I sat at my computer again, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. One by one, I removed every authorized user from my accounts. Changed passwords. Closed joint credit lines. Revoked access from all shared subscriptions. Each click felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. When I reached the last account, the family credit card, I paused. My cursor hovered over Leah's name. Then, with one final keystroke, I hit Remove User. Done. My phone buzzed within minutes. Mom calling, then Leah, then Corey. I ignored them all. The silence that followed was heavy, electric. I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. Because what they'd taken wasn't just money, it was years of my life, of my work, of my peace. And I was going to make sure they paid for every last cent. I stared at the printed ledger spread across my desk, the numbers highlighted like battle scars. The total had grown, $52,604.73. I didn't feel shock anymore. Just clarity. They thought they could keep using me because I wouldn't fight back. They thought guilt would keep me quiet. But guilt doesn't work on someone who's finally done caring. I picked up my phone and opened a new note. Step 1, Fraud Alert. Step 2, Legal Counsel. Step 3, Exposure. I saved the file under one name, Operation Clean Slate. Then I whispered to myself, my voice steady and cold, I needed a plan. And fast. By the time dawn filtered through the blinds, I wasn't exhausted anymore. I was focused. The chaos of discovery had burned away, leaving something sharper behind. Resolve. For 34 years, I had been the peacekeeper. The reliable one. The quiet daughter who solved problems instead of creating them. But that role was officially retired. Now I was something else entirely. Methodical, prepared, and invisible until I chose not to be. By noon, I had my coffee in one hand and my phone in the other, scrolling through local attorneys. I wasn't looking for family law or mediation. I wanted someone who handled financial crimes. Someone who didn't flinch when fraud or forgery entered the room. That's how I found Amanda Reyes, a white-collar crime attorney known for her precision and lack of patience for emotional nonsense, as one reviewer put it. Perfect. When her assistant picked up, I introduced myself calmly. Hi, this is Dana Sullivan. I need to schedule a consultation. It involves unauthorized access, forged documents, and financial misuse by family members. There was a pause. Then the assistant said softly, that sounds serious. Can you come in at 3 p.m. today? Absolutely. I hung up and exhaled. This was it, the first official step toward accountability. By afternoon, I gathered everything I'd built over the past week, bank statements, transaction logs, screenshots of forged e-signatures, copies of Leah's loan transfer, and most importantly, a list of every account they'd used in my name. I slid it all into a crisp black binder labeled Family Fraud Case, Sullivan versus Matthews. The irony wasn't lost on me. Before heading out, I called Alan, my compliance officer friend. I'm meeting an attorney, I said. Good, he replied. Keep your tone neutral. Don't lead with emotion. Lead with evidence. I smiled. You sound like me now. He chuckled. Guess you're rubbing off. At 3 o'clock sharp, I sat across from Amanda Reyes in a sleek, minimalist office overlooking downtown. She wore a charcoal gray suit, sharp lines matching the way she spoke. Walk me through this, she said, sliding a legal pad toward herself. I opened the binder. My sister, her husband, and my parents have been accessing my financial accounts for at least 2 years. I've confirmed forged authorizations and unauthorized transfers totaling $52,000. Her pen froze mid-note. That's not small change. I nodded. I have metadata proving logins from their home, a fake signature, and digital trails to their accounts. She leaned back, eyebrows raised. You work in banking, right? Yes. Fraud analytics. A small smile tugged at her lips. So you already know what you're doing. I know how to build a case. I just need to make it official. Amanda flipped through the binder, eyes scanning the pages like a surgeon reading an X-ray. Finally, she looked up. You have enough here for both a civil and criminal claim. But I assume you're not ready to throw them all in jail? My silence was answer enough. She nodded once. Then we'll start with a cease and desist, paired with a restitution demand letter. That usually shakes people awake. How soon can we send it? By Monday morning. I let the words sink in. Monday. That gave me the weekend to prepare, mentally and strategically. That evening, I drove home through soft drizzle, the city lights smearing across my windshield like streaks of gold. The feeling in my chest wasn't anger anymore. It was control. For the first time, I was ahead of them. I spent the next few hours making a different kind of list, not of losses, but of boundaries. New rules for Dana Sullivan, no shared accounts. No emotional blackmail. No apologies for protecting myself. Simple. Ruthless. Necessary. I backed up all my files to an encrypted drive, then recorded short video statements explaining each piece of evidence. Timestamps, accounts, context. It wasn't just documentation, it was insurance. If anything happened to me, the truth wouldn't disappear. Around midnight, I pulled out a small digital recorder. Alan had suggested it earlier that day. If they confront you, record everything. It's legal as long as one party, meaning you, consents. I slid the recorder into my purse. The next morning, Saturday, I woke early and started packing, not for vacation, but for relocation. I'd been renting my apartment for 5 years, but it never felt like mine. Now, I wanted a place untouched by their history. I boxed up my essentials: work files, clothes, a few framed photos from before things went sour. Then I called Mandy. "Hey," she said sleepily. "You okay?" "I'm fine," I said, meaning it. "Actually, I need a favor. Know anyone renting short-term apartments?" She yawned. "Yeah, my cousin manages a corporate complex near downtown." "Why?" "I'm moving. Temporarily. Just need some distance." "You got it. I'll text her now." Within 2 hours, I had a lease signed for a quiet one-bedroom overlooking the river, paid in full for 6 months, under a brand new bank account with no shared access. By noon, the movers arrived. They packed quietly as I directed them, my voice calm, detached. When one of them asked, "You downsizing?" I smiled faintly. "You could say that. I'm decluttering my life." That afternoon, while boxes were stacked in my new apartment, I sat on the balcony and began my second wave of preparation: financial cleanup. I called every institution I'd ever used. "Hello, this is Dana Sullivan. I'd like to place a permanent fraud flag on my profile." "Of course, ma'am. Can you confirm your identity?" "Yes," I said, reciting the words with steady confidence. Each call ended the same way: "We've secured your account, Ms. Sullivan." Music to my ears. By evening, I'd also filed formal complaints with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, locking my credit reports and adding fraud alerts. Then I froze every old account, replaced cards, changed passwords, and enabled biometric authentication. Every click felt like cutting another thread they'd been pulling for years. Later that night, I opened my laptop again, this time to write the final inventory, a timeline of every deceit. From the first fake loan transfer to the latest unauthorized charge. When I finished, it filled 10 pages. I titled it "The Ledger of Lies." As I read through it, I caught small patterns that I hadn't noticed before, like how most charges happen near holidays, or right after Leah's supposed career milestones. She'd been funding her influencer lifestyle off me. Brand deals, my foot. But then came a note that chilled me. Under loan reimbursement, there was a series of payments from my credit card directly into an account under my parents' names, G&C, Sullivan Holdings. Holdings. That wasn't a personal account. It was a registered entity. I opened the public business database and typed it in. There it was: G&C, Sullivan Holdings LLC. Registered 2 years ago. Listed owners: George and Carol Sullivan. Purpose: real estate management and media investments. I blinked, stunned. My parents, both retired, living on modest pensions, had started a company. And I had been their silent investor. Every fraudulent transfer had gone straight into that business. The same one Leah bragged about when she said, "We're expanding our brand family." They weren't just borrowing from me. They were building on me. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. That's when the strategy crystallized. If they wanted to treat this like business, fine. I'd give them the full corporate treatment. Step 1. Let Amanda handle the restitution letter. Step 2. Serve them with official notice at the next family gathering, in person. Step 3. Ensure every word was recorded, documented, undeniable. I wanted them to see my face when they realized I wasn't the quiet daughter anymore. Sunday morning, Amanda called. "Draft's ready," she said. "It's firm but not aggressive yet. I've included a clause requiring full repayment within 30 days before escalation to criminal prosecution." "Perfect," I said. She hesitated. "You're sure you want to hand-deliver it?" "Yes. I want them to read it in front of me." There was a pause. Then a quiet, approving laugh. "You're bolder than most of my clients, Dana. Just be careful. People panic when they're caught." I smiled to myself. They've underestimated me for decades. Let's see how they handle reality. By Monday afternoon, I was ready. I wore a dark green blouse, my presentation armor, as Mandy called it, and simple gold earrings. Professional, polished, unshakable. In my bag, the restitution letter in a sealed envelope, my digital recorder, a spare flash drive containing all the evidence. Before leaving, I took one last look around my new apartment. Sunlight spilled across the floor, warm and quiet. The kind of peace I hadn't felt in years. Then I grabbed my keys and whispered, "Let's end this." The drive to my parents' house was surreal. Every mile felt like retracing old wounds. By the time I pulled into their driveway, my hands were steady, my heart oddly calm. The Christmas decorations were still up, twinkling lights, plastic reindeer, and the same wreath I'd bought for Mom 3 years ago. Poetic. I rang the doorbell. Mom opened it, surprised but smiling. "Dana, you came back. We were just talking about you." "I bet you were," I said softly. She ushered me in, fussing over my coat. "Leah's here too." "We didn't expect you to." "I won't be long," I interrupted. Dad appeared from the living room, his expression wary. "Everything okay?" "Better than ever," I said, pulling out the envelope. "Actually, I just came to drop this off." Leah's voice chimed from behind them. "What's that?" "A peace offering." I turned, meeting her smirk with a calm smile. "Something like that." I placed the envelope on the coffee table. Inside, Amanda's letter sat neatly folded above an itemized list of every fraudulent transaction, with totals circled in red ink. Mom frowned, reaching for it. "What's this?" "Documentation," I said evenly. "Of everything you, Dad, and Leah have charged, transferred, or forged in my name." The silence that followed was surgical. Dad's face drained of color. Leah laughed nervously. "Come on, Dana, this is dramatic even for you." I clicked the recorder in my purse. "Feel free to read it aloud," I said. As Mom unfolded the letter, her voice trembled. "Cease and desist, restitution demand, 30 days, criminal charges." Her eyes flicked up to mine. "You wouldn't." I tilted my head. "Wouldn't I?" Leah scoffed. "You're bluffing. You wouldn't destroy your own family." "That's the difference between you and me," I said. "You already did." Dad stepped forward, his voice low. "Dana, we can talk about this. No need for lawyers." I smiled politely. "Actually, that's exactly what there's a need for." Then I stood, smoothed my blouse, and picked up my purse. "I'll give you 30 days. After that, Amanda handles everything." I paused at the doorway, turning back one last time. They had no idea what was coming. The candles flickered across the dining table as every pair of eyes locked on me. The spreadsheet on the TV glowed in the silence, rows of red, yellow, and blue that told the story better than I ever could. For a few seconds, no one breathed. Then Dad stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the tile. "Turn that off," he barked. "This is ridiculous." His voice carried that same authority he'd used my whole life, the one that used to make me shrink. This time, I didn't even flinch. "Sit down," I said quietly. The tone surprised even me, but he obeyed, lowering himself back into his seat, his face tightening. Mom reached for the remote, but I caught her wrist halfway. "Don't," I said. "You might want to hear how deep this goes." Her mouth trembled. Leah folded her arms, the confidence draining from her eyes. "You went through our accounts?" she said, her voice brittle. I gave a slow nod. "You went through mine for years. I figured we should even the score." The air in the room was thick enough to choke on. Corey muttered, "This is going too far." I turned to him, my expression cold. "You're right. It went too far when you took $3,800 from my account and labeled it a business reimbursement. Remember that?" His mouth opened, then shut again. His cheeks flushed crimson. Dad tried again, his voice softer now, almost pleading. "Dana, you're family. Families make mistakes. We'll sort it out privately." I shook my head. "You had 30 days to do that. You ignored every call from my attorney." Leah let out a short, humorless laugh. "You hired a lawyer? Over money?" I stared straight into her eyes. "No, Leah. Over the way you forged my signature. Over the way you used me like an ATM and then laughed about it online." Her face paled further, the color draining completely. I tapped the next slide on the remote. Up popped a screenshot of her email, her conversation with Mom, joking about how I'd never notice a few charges. The words glared from the screen in bright black text. "You said I wouldn't notice," I said quietly. "You were wrong." Mom pressed her fingers to her temples, whispering, "Leah, please tell me this isn't real." Leah snapped, "She's twisting everything. You don't know what she's capable of." That made me laugh softly. "You're right. You don't know what I'm capable of. But you're about to." I opened the final slide, Amanda's restitution letter. Leah gasped. Dad's hand twitched toward the paper as if to snatch it away. I didn't move. "This is official," I said. "You have 7 days left to repay every cent, otherwise it goes to court. And yes, that includes the business account under G&C Sullivan Holdings." Dad's mouth fell open. How do you even know about that?" "Because I'm not stupid," I said simply. "And because I was the one funding it." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "We didn't mean," she started, but I cut her off. "You didn't mean to get caught." My voice didn't rise, but it carried enough weight to stop everyone cold. I walked to the table, pulled the letter from my bag, and placed it in front of Dad. "You have until Friday," I said. "After that, it's not my problem anymore." Leah shoved her chair back and stood up. "You can't do this. You'll ruin our lives." I met her glare evenly. "I didn't ruin them. You did, the moment you decided my kindness was your credit line." Her jaw trembled. "You're bluffing." I smiled faintly. "Send me the payment and find out." Corey spoke up suddenly, his voice shaking. "This isn't fair. You have money, you're fine. We were just trying to make things work." I turned toward him slowly. "Fair? You stole from me. You forged my name. You built your comfort on my exhaustion. You think I'm fine because I didn't scream sooner." I stepped closer to him. "That's over now." Mom buried her face in her hands, whispering, "Dana, please don't do this to your sister. We're family." I took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. Family doesn't mean what you think it means anymore. Family doesn't use. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't drain you dry and call it love. My voice cracked, but I kept going. I begged for connection. All you gave me was obligation. Leah lunged toward the TV, yanking the USB from the port. The screen went black. "You're insane," she spat. "You think anyone's going to believe you over us?" I tilted my head, unbothered. "They don't have to believe me. They just have to see the evidence." She froze, her face twisting in confusion. "What evidence?" I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone, unlocking the screen. "This conversation," I said softly. "Everything you've said since I walked in." Her eyes widened. "You recorded us?" I smiled. "I told you, it's not a gift. It's a presentation." The silence that followed was total. Even the clock on the wall seemed to stop ticking. Dad's voice came out low and desperate. "Dana, please. You'll destroy this family." "No," I said, stepping back toward the door. "I'm saving what's left of me." Leah's voice rose again, sharp and panicked. "You can't just walk away. You think you can embarrass us like this?" I turned back slowly, meeting her fury with calm. "Embarrassment is what happens when people finally see who you really are." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I took one last look around that perfect house, those gleaming floors, the polished ornaments, the laughter that used to make me ache for belonging. "Enjoy dinner," I said quietly. "You'll need the strength for what's coming." I reached for the doorknob just as Dad whispered my name. I didn't turn around. "You'll regret this," he said, his voice barely audible. "Maybe," I said. "But at least it'll be mine to regret." The cold night air hit me as I stepped outside, the snow crunching beneath my boots. My breath came out in small clouds, each one lighter than the last. For a moment I just stood there, staring at the glow of the house behind me, that place I'd once called home, now just a crime scene wrapped in tinsel. Then my phone buzzed in my hand. I looked down at the screen, my pulse quickening. The message preview read, "They know what you did. Check your email." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. 3 days later, the real storm began. The first sign came on social media. Leah had posted a long, tearful caption under a photo of her holding Mom's hand, both looking distraught in soft lighting. Sometimes the people you love most hurt you the worst. But we forgive anyway. That's what family does. Broken heart, folded hands, #forgiveness, #healing. The comments exploded. Friends, neighbors, distant cousins all chiming in with sympathy. You're so strong, Leah. Can't believe she did that to you. Family's everything. I didn't need to read between the lines to know who she was. By that evening, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Missed calls from my aunt, voicemails from coworkers who'd seen Leah's post. One message from an old neighbor said, "Dana, what's going on? Your sister's saying you called the police on your parents." I didn't respond. I just opened my laptop and pulled up the case tracker from Amanda's firm. The restitution demand had been officially filed with the county clerk that morning. It was public record now. The gloves were off. A week after that, the gossip had gone local. The small-town Facebook groups, the ones that thrived on rumors about bake sales and zoning permits, suddenly had a new headline: Local banker sues her own family over money dispute. They made it sound like greed. No mention of fraud, no hint of forgery, just money dispute. My parents must have leaked it. That was their specialty, narrative control. They couldn't steal my future, so they stole my reputation instead. Mom left a voicemail one night. "Dana, please, this has gone too far. We're your family. You can't drag us through court like criminals." Her voice broke halfway through, and for a second, the guilt tried to claw its way back in. But then I remembered the spreadsheet, the forged signature, the laughter when they mocked me at Christmas. I deleted the message without replying. Leah, on the other hand, chose public warfare. She tagged me directly in a post that read, "When you try to help your sister and she turns it into a lawsuit. Some people are addicted to drama." Unamused face, her followers ate it up. Hundreds of comments, all one-sided. It was surreal watching strangers analyze my life like a TV episode. But beneath the noise, something else was happening, something quieter, sharper. The court had assigned a hearing date. The hearing was in 2 days. I had to be ready. My phone no longer buzzed with manipulative guilt calls or fake emergencies. It was strange at first. Peace can be disorienting when you've lived inside chaos. But slowly, I began to fill the silence with things that were mine. Mandy visited often. She'd drop by with Thai food and wine, flopping onto my couch while I told her small stories of rebuilding. "You're different now," she said once. "It's like you breathe easier." "I do," I told her. "It's weird, isn't it? How peace feels heavier at first. Like your body doesn't believe it's allowed." She smiled. "Now it is." Sometimes I'd catch myself thinking about them, about Christmas nights, or birthdays that turned into performances. The memories weren't sharp anymore. They were muted, like old film reels fading into static. What once felt like open wounds were now just faint scars, proof of survival, not reminders of pain. The settlement came through in April. When the transfer hit my account, Amanda called to confirm. "It's done," she said. "You're officially free of them." I stared at the balance on my screen. The numbers didn't matter. It wasn't about the money. It was about acknowledgement. A line finally drawn between who I was and who I refused to be again. After that, I took a week off work and drove north, no destination in mind. The air grew colder as the miles passed. One morning, I stopped at a lakeside cafe, ordered black coffee, and watched the fog roll across the water. It reminded me of every time I'd been told to shrink, to stay quiet, to be understanding. And yet here I was, unbroken, unbent, and unowned. When I came home, I started a new tradition. Every Sunday, I lit one candle on my kitchen counter, just for myself. A reminder that love doesn't always come from where it should, but it can always come from within. One evening, as I sat by the window reading, a message arrived from an unknown number. It wasn't another threat or plea. Just a line of text: "I'm sorry, Mom." I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed a single reply: "I hope you find peace." I already did. After sending it, I put my phone face down and let the quiet fill the room again. The city lights flickered in the distance, steady and alive. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be, not chasing approval, not mending what I didn't break, just living. Sunlight on my new apartment wall. It felt like closure. I poured myself a cup of coffee, opened the balcony door, and let the wind rush in. The world outside was wide and waiting. I smiled to myself, a small, certain smile, the kind that only comes when you've walked through fire and found yourself on the other side, still standing. I was Dana Sullivan, building a life on my terms. The morning sun filtered through my window, soft and golden, the same way it had that Christmas morning months ago, but everything felt different now. Back then, I stood at that same kind of table, holding a wrapped gift I thought would fix everything. Now, I sat at my own small kitchen table, no gifts, no audience, just peace. The silence wasn't heavy anymore, it was honest. I ran my hand across the smooth surface of the wood, remembering the sound of glass shattering that night, the sting of humiliation in a room full of people who were supposed to love me. That moment used to define me. Now it reminded me how far I'd come. Because pain can build walls, but it can also build foundations. Sometimes I still think about them, my parents, my sister, the house that used to feel like home. I wonder if they ever sit at their own table and think about what they lost. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. Either way, it's not my burden anymore. I stopped carrying their guilt the day I walked out that door. That door, wide, cold, echoing, was supposed to close on me. Instead, it opened to something new. I learned that forgiveness isn't a favor you give the people who broke you. It's the peace you give yourself after you've rebuilt. I don't need them to apologize. I don't even need them to understand. What I needed, what I finally found, was myself. The mirror by the entryway catches my reflection as I stand, mug in hand. The woman staring back doesn't look fragile anymore. There's strength behind her calm, confidence behind her silence. She's no longer the person waiting for someone else to choose her. She chose herself. I step out onto the balcony. The city below hums with life, cars moving, people laughing, sunlight warming the rooftops. The world feels wide again. Limitless. For the first time, I know that everything I went through wasn't the end of my story, it was the beginning of it. I was Dana Sullivan, the daughter who once believed love meant sacrifice, who kept giving until she was empty. But now, I'm the woman who filled that emptiness with purpose, with boundaries, with peace. I was Dana Sullivan, building a life on my terms. So tell me, what would you do? Would you forgive them, or let karma finish the job? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.